The passion, the energy, the power, the spirit of hardcore.
So this follows up on a lot of things of the previous talk. Let's take a look at the first slide here. So what product are we looking at here? So decentralized autonomous organizations, what is the idealism? This is related to the last talk. It's to create a structure where, amongst other things, no one party has control, and it's kind of democratic. That was the idealism of it. But it didn't turn out that way so far. And this paper is about an mechanism that addresses that. And it's also, I'm going to emphasize today, regulatory themes, because that seems to matter to people in the conference. So what are the problems? Well, here we're talking about token-based systems that are publicly marketed. One problem is involving explicit control. And if you have a system like that, somebody can own a lot of tokens, and then they have control. And that's contrary to the ideals of decentralization, the ideals of Web3. Okay. But what does that look like? Can I get slide 66, please? Please. Stops. You can just type the number you put it there. Okay. So what is this? Okay, this is a paper that was published last year. And what are they looking at? They're analyzing both token holders and delegates. They're asking what the Nakamoto number is. What's that number? That's the number that if you add them all up, it's more than 50%. So this tells you, this is just structural. Some of these people may not vote, okay? But this is telling you, what does this look like structurally? It looks terrible. Okay, why is that? Because if we look down these two columns here, this is the holders, this is looking at token holders, this is looking at the token delegates. We take the minimum of these two, almost all of them are less than 10. So we have a concentration, structural concentration, which is very contrary to the idea. Can I go back to, let's see, let's go back to slide 2. You can just type 2 in there, just go right back without going to the thumbnail. Oh, come on. Okay, so what's the second problem? The second problem, so this is explicit control. Second problem is implicit control. So what's that? That results from the fact that the bulk of holders are passive. They don't vote. And this is really extreme, like you were talking about, like 4% of tokens vote. Okay, now there's a lot of reasons for this. Can I go to slide 64? Try checking just 64, see if it jumps. Well, it doesn't. Okay, it's up here on the thumbnail. Sorry about this. Usually I have it down. 64. Yeah, 64. Okay. All right. So one of the reasons for this, one classic reason is so-called paradox of voting. If I own a small number of tokens, it's very unlikely, it's very unlikely that my vote is going to be decisive. Okay. I have a very small stake. It doesn't matter much to me, so why should I vote? Because voting has a cost. Okay, that's one classic argument. Now I'm going to go to a second argument, which is a really important one. It's a really important one for governance in general, both corporate governance and DAO governance. So the problem is why should I make an effort to be informed? I hate this slide, so you can look up here. Why should I make an effort to be informed if I own a very small number of tokens? If I own 1/10 of 1%, I own 1,000. I make an effort to be informed. 999 divided by 1,000, and the benefit goes to someone else. And this doesn't mean corporate governance and is the Jensen-Mecklin cloud. Okay, it's the general problem. If somebody owns less than 100%, let's say they own 20%, it's still the case with 20%. That's a big hold, right? But when they put an effort in, 4/5 of the value goes to someone else. So we worry that our project, the DAO, we're talking about Uniswap, we're talking about Sky, we're talking about all these things that will really value these decentralized projects that have been very successful. They're going to be really under-incentivized. Okay, this is a general problem that exists in the corporate parity too. Now let me ask this question. And I'll just think about it for you. How many people in here are Jensen-Mecklin, we call Jensen-Mecklin free riders, Okay? I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to sit there, I'm going to let other people do the work, and I'm just going to hold this passively. Now, for example, with the index fund, unless you really have a lot of time, you know, an S&P 500 index in the United States that has 5-star companies. Are you on top of all those companies? You have to vote. How many people in here with something who own something are just investment free riders? A lot. I was expecting possibly the lowest number ever in the audience because it's this audience, but we have a lot. And there's nothing, and you're going to be the hero. Well, they showed us you're going to be a hero in the story. Okay. So another problem is, so if I'm a portfolio investor, like for example, for me, I have a portfolio of crypto things. I have this at one bank. Now the problem is, some of them are competing with each other. So I put a lot of governance effort into one. It may just be coming out of the other one. And so in my portfolio, it doesn't matter. So a portfolio investor a lot of times is not going to want to put an effort into individual governance things. So this is a whole bunch of problems. Let's see if I can pull this off. Okay. So what does the empirics look like? And then they look really, really bad. So this is an example of a study from 2023. And so what are we going to ask? We're going to look at 50 DAOs, and we're going to look at almost 5,000 votes. We're going to ask a simple question. How many people, if they change their vote, would choose the result? How many people do we need? 35% of the votes, only need one person. And then for 4 people, 2/3 of the time, 4 people could change their vote. And not only that, these people drill down on this. These 4 people tend to vote the same way. Okay, so what do we have a picture of here? We have a picture of a very small group of people who are active. Everybody else is passive, and they basically have control. They basically have implicit control of the whole thing. This violates our ideals, okay? And a lot of times this could be founders and stuff like that, and we have nothing against founders, not as good, but this is a problem for the system, okay? We go back to slide 3. All right, so what is going to be the idea in this talk, in the paper? So we're going to create an auction-based mechanism that creates contestable and temporary control, okay? So in other words, if you win an auction, we're going to describe the auction in detail. You temporarily get control of the DAO, but it's also contestable. Somebody else can start another auction and push you out. And so what is this going to cause? It's going to cause periods of temporary control by a single party. And then when that temporary control goes away, the DAO defaults to its original state, which is some kind of voting mechanism, okay, usually. So what does this mean? Well, this changes everything. And if this was implemented in corporate area, which it could be, and that there's follow-up work on this, they try to implement it first, is being actively trying to implement it in the DAO space. It changes things quite a bit, because why? Because voting doesn't matter for the auction. You have to win the auction. So these people that are having entrenched control, both implicit and explicit, it's over for them. They can't keep it because they could be defeated in an auction. Not only that, there's this problem of empty voting. What is that? How we may not be familiar. What's empty voting? It's where, for example, in the corporate area, or this happens in the crypto area too. It's happened with Justin's son and the Steam case. So Justin's son basically borrowed a bunch of tokens and voted them, and that gave him the ability to take over Steam. Okay? That's empty voting. Why? Because he did not have the economic interest in those tokens. So I'm separating out the economic interest. This is easy to do. We can easily create a derivatives transaction in public markets and just strip out the economic part for almost no cost and just have the vote. So what does this mean? It means trouble, generally, because first of all, now we have a contest. The contest is how many empty votes can you get, not how good are you at running this project. Merit goes down the drain. So this is a big threat. But with this mechanism, it's gone. Why? Because empty votes don't matter either. You have to win the auction, okay? And this would radically change how public corporations are governed. And nobody can own a corporation anymore because they could be stated in an auction. Mark Zuckerberg, Now it's over. Okay, so it would be a major change. Many people would see this as a Web3 invasion of a corporate area, okay, because it's the state in entrenched control forever. It's over. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So where is this? And this is going to be an important slide. I'm going to talk about a little bit. What is this going to apply to? This kind of mechanism. The mechanism, because it's an auction, is going to depend. We'll see it depends very heavily on token values. Okay, so we're depending on market values. All right. So when is that going to work? Okay, so we define economic DAOs. What is that? The governance tokens publicly traded. And here's the key thing. The market capitalization of the tokens representative of the value of the enterprise. That's the meaning for this to work. Now, that's obviously going to be true, or arguably strongly true, of things like Stave and formulas make the DAO. Uniswap. Why? Because the way they're set up is the token holders do a better job of governing their token value goes up, because we're pumping business money. This is the Uniswap return fee switch on. So there's kind of like commercial projects. But the interesting thing about this is this can apply to a lot of things that are non-commercial, like charity DAOs, even if, if we have social networking DAOs. Why is that? Because if I want to participate in the project, I need to buy a token. If the project's a better project, there's higher demand for tokens. So many of these non-commercial DAOs might be covered by this situation, by this approach. Now, another important thing that people don't think about in DAO governance that's very different. A lot of times when people start studying DAO governance, they took ideas from nation-state companies. And we try to apply all these ideas. The DAO governance is quite different in a very important way. And that is this: when you have a nation, it's hard for people to move. You basically have a relatively static set of people, and you have to decide chairmen for those governments. For token-based DAOs, this is not true at all. So I don't like my DAO. I sell my tokens. I buy tokens in another DAO. Okay, and this is, in economics terms, this is like a local government economy, like a local government model, like the T-group model is like an example of this from people are released. What is that? The idea, this is the theory idea, the T-group idea, 1956, I think it was. The idea is cities will do this. They'll put a particular package together of taxes and benefits. And if I don't like it, I can move to another city. And if we make, this is classic economist, if we make strong enough assumptions, it works perfectly. There's some city that, is exactly what I want. Of course, that's kind of unrealistic. And not only that, moving between cities is costly too. I have children in schools, I have connections with them, etc. However, if you think about it, for DAOs, that's really not true. I just sell my token and buy another one. It's easy to move. And this is a really important point that relates to the previous talk. DAOs, we don't have to win over the whole world, have a good project as a decentralized exchange. We just need to have enough people that really like this idea. They're going to pay a lot of money for the tokens. They're going to push that value up. And by the way, that's going to make it unattractive as a target. For example, if we take the very first spot in this conference, like Nostr, we put if Nostr was sitting in a DAO, and people really like it, the token value is going to be high enough that it's not worth taking on by Facebook. Why? Because they pay too much per customer. Okay, so this T2 environment creates a potential, not for sure, but it creates a potential for having an operation in this space without having 98% of the population. Okay, but not even having like 2% of the population. We just need. And so this is a very powerful environment, possibly. But if we don't get the governance right, then it's not going to meet our ideals. Somebody will be running it. Okay. An entrenched control. Okay. All right. So,
Probably does that.
right, so what would we like to do when we do an auction? Okay. Well, here's something we'd really like to do, and this is what the mechanism is going to largely accomplish this. First of all, we'd like the winner of the auction to have the best planet, the one that creates the most value. And keep in mind that value can include things like participation, democracy, that can be a lot of the token value. So we're not just supporting economic things here, we're supporting things more generally, okay? And then the other thing we'd like to do, and this is going to be where you, these Jensen Mechling free riders, come in. We would like to give you most of the value from the auction. What do we mean by that? So the auction is going to increase its token value. The person that initiated the auction is going to get some of that. But we would like to give you as much as possible. Okay, isn't that cool? But no, why? Why would we want to do that? Okay, here's why. Because the value that accrues to the people that did not initiate the project, it plays back in value terms all the way back to the beginning of the DAO. So if I'm sitting there and starting a project up, and I know that as an initial token builder, I know that when future projects comes up, that will increase the value. As much value as possible is going to flow to my successors, and even to me if I keep holding my tokens. What's that going to do? It's going to maximize the value of the DAO at the beginning. It's going to make it easier to start up. That's going to be true all the way along. It's going to maximize investment value. It's something very important. And the Jensen Mechling free riders, even though they're passive, allocating most of the value to them is going to be a really powerful move to make this space more viable, because we're going to have higher startup values, easier to fund. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. Arnie. So what is all right, so let's move. I'm going to move directly to, I'm going to skip slides right then ask them to. It's frozen. Yeah, it's frozen. Can I move the slide to carbon? It is. Okay, got it. All right, so I'm going to explain the auction mechanism a little bit. I don't want to spend, you can dig down into these details, and I could spend more than an hour doing this, but I'm just going to describe the basic idea of it. So what is this picture? Whoops, I'm sorry. What is this picture here? All right, so at the beginning of the auction, we hypothesized that the tokens are worth this price per token. And the idea is the bidders are what are they going to do? There's going to be 3 parts of their bid, and we're going to make them make 2 deposits. There's 5 elements here. One part of their bid is they're going to say, I can reach a certain value V above P0. They're going to claim that, okay? That's the first part of their bid. Now, if they do that, then we're going to create a bunch of increased token value equal to this horizontal strip here. It has the green part, the blue part, the gray part, and this white part. And the second part of their bid is they're going to ask for a portion of that. Was there a question? Okay. They're going to ask for a portion of that. So now they've claimed a certain value and they've asked for a portion of this. What is this green part? We're going to make them report how many tokens they already have. And this is going to be, by the way, we can talk about it if you want. This is the hardest part to want just with code, because they can try to hide. And we have this really interesting, it's actually really interesting from technical point standpoint how we do this. This involves identification issues. It involves methods of uncovering that. Okay. And we have to try to do that really fast because we're getting an auction. So that's really interesting technically. So we're going to report this position. Okay. And now what? So if they win the auction, they're going to get the green part and the blue part. What about the rest? That's this white part and this gray part. That goes to you, the Jensen Mechling free riders. And the auction is going to be based, the person that wins the auction is the person that's going to be able to claim the largest amount that they're going to give to you. You liking this? It's like green trust. Green trust.
Blue really. And white folk.
Oh, Jenny. Yeah. And so now, so those are 3 things that are part of their bid. They have to say they're going to reach a certain value. They have to claim part of that extra increase. They have to report what they already have. But now we're going to they're going to have to make 2 deposits. One deposit has to be bigger than the white area plus the gray area. It's bigger than what they're going to give you. They have to deposit that in some kind of token value, stable coin to be. Okay? That's one deposit. What's going to happen? Well, here's the thing. If they don't reach that value, they pay you their money. The money comes out of the deposit. Okay, and this is all could be run by code. Why are we doing deposits? Well, these are actually synthetic options. They're actually an option So this is, we're going to force them to write a bear put spread. And unless they reach this value, they're going to have to pay out on that, part of it at least. Okay, we're creating synthetic options. Why are you doing this synthetic one? So we can do it with code. We don't have any counterparties. We're trying to make this whole thing work by code. The other deposit they're going to make is even potentially larger one that covers basically, combined with this deposit, covers the entire initial value of the DAO. Okay, so what's going to happen there? Well, if the DAO, if they have the draw and the DAO falls below P0, they pay. They pay who? They pay you. So here's what you get is, and I'm emphasizing this to relate to regulation. As a just and definitely free rider, you can't lose. They come in to make the claim. They don't make that claim. You're going to get the value anyway. They're going to cover any loss. Okay, this is very powerful investor protection. Have you ever had an investment like in the stock market that has this protection, or anywhere else, crypto? No. Okay, so this is going to be very important later for regulation. Why? Because if we have this kind of protection, why do we need regulation? We're driving largely by code.
Fight manipulation.
Go ahead.
We need regulation to fight manipulation.
Listen, the thing about this, you manipulate, you lose, buddy. Okay, because you have your deposit in there, the value goes down, you lose your deposit, part of your deposit.
Can you explain the option part? And I just did it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I went through that both fast. So, the option bar. Okay, so let's just look at this. We call this the value deposit. That deposit at least the amount of the white area and the gray area. And what's the rule? The rule is we get to the end and there's some final value. Okay, that could be in between here. Now, if it's up here, they don't lose anything because they only lose this deposit to the extent they fall short of what they claimed. So why do we call that a bear put spread? Because if you the just and definitely free riders, the other side of the option, you have put at this price and you sold the put at this price. So what does that mean? That means that if things end up down here, you get exactly this gap. If things end up in between, this put partly pays off, and you get part of it. If it ends up here, you get nothing. So that's a bear put spread. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's the free riders?
Yeah, you get the put. The free riders get the put. You have the put. They're forcing the bidder to give you the put. The put guarantees you that you're going to get what they promised.
Okay, so I'm fully passive as a free rider, but
This is the cool thing. You should really be watching this. I'm saying here. Okay, yeah, okay. So these big people, usually, so they can use, we can think about them in the crudest psychological terms, which is true reductionist. But these big people come in and they take everything. They get all the surplus, they do all this. Well, guess what? We're going to push this. We're going to pay them enough for the so they'll do it, but the rest is going to you. And not only that, they're going to put money down. But you are going to get that no matter what, whether they succeed or fail.
Good.
This is cool.
Let's do it. So, Chitin, how to make sure, so the options, when you're selling the options, they have a price. So how do you make sure that the price of the option that they're basically giving you is more than the rectangle?
Okay. So the cool thing about this is instead of having actual options, these are actual deposits. So this
yes, but it has a cost. Like if you want to create an option, the selling side can hedge it. So the option has.
That's a really important question.
Right.
Okay. Here's the thing. You can hedge a lot of things. Like let's say I'm a malicious actor. I want to come in and I want to destroy this DAO. And I might have various motives for doing that. One might be, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, take control, and I'm going to short the token. And then I'm going to tank the DAO with my governance control. Now, look at this. You can do that by empty voting. If we don't have this kind of mechanism, I can get a whole bunch of empty votes. I can borrow, like Justin Sun borrow tokens from Binance. I borrow the tokens, I have control, I buy a whole bunch of puts on the current market price, and I take my control and I tank the sucker big and destroy it.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is the malicious, this is the first thing you have to worry about, right? Okay, you try to do that here, you already deposited the whole value, more than the whole value of the DAO. You get nothing. You lose your deposit. Okay, you're screwed. So you don't have screwed, but it's not going to work. Okay, so we're trained malicious actor, and we have money up front. We have deposit. This code is going into and notice that they can't hedge that. They can't hedge out the deposit except by paying even more money than the deposit or equal amount. See that?
Okay, my question was not about the malicious actor, so let's look at the participant in the auction. They are basically giving you an option for free as a free writer, which costs something. Like every option has a market price. You can deposit it. You can, but the put options that they are selling to you, they cost them something to hedge.
Let me go a little further in the mechanism before I assume these are free.
What do you mean?
Okay, let me go a little further in the description because I can answer this question, I think, by just explaining more.
Okay.
Because we haven't talked about the thing. Reason your question is a timely one. We haven't talked about the person that's bidding. What about them? Okay, they're important too. They're really important. There are people like in this audience potentially who have a really good idea.
Yes.
Okay. So we like them. We like everybody's a good guy here, except the malicious people we're going to get their butt. Okay. All right. So all right, what does this look like for the bidder? Okay. Well, the bidder has a cost. That's this red part. There's a cost. They have to implement this project. And there's also maybe a risk factor built into this cost that can allow for the factor taking a risk here. Okay, it's possibly. So they're going to have a cost. Now, in this picture, this is the first pass. Why? Because the bidder, in a sense, breaks even. And of course, they have a normal profit built into that cost. They want to make a normal profit. You're going to motivate them to do this. In this case, the bidder breaks even, and all of the additional surplus, which, by the way, is the social surplus. What's social surplus? It's what we produce minus the cost. That's the social surplus. All of that goes to the adjustment mechanism free items. We're gonna maximize the value of this in the beginning and the investment time. This is the first best. Okay. Now the problem is we have this known as the problem of full surpluses, extraction in auction theory and game theory. Basically, we don't know how to do that. It doesn't work fully. Okay. So it worked partially. Now, why is that? Well, this auction mechanism, all auction mechanisms have this problem. This auction mechanism, English auction, what does that mean? So it's the one you think of. We're gonna gradually increase the bids until there's the final bid and everyone else has dropped out and I'm the last one. Now, what does that mean? It means that I'm gonna win at what? If I win, I'm gonna win at the value of the second best bid. The second best bidder gets to this point and they're breaking even. They offer the white area, the gray area. They can't offer anymore because they won't cover their cost. They're out. Okay, the second highest bidder. But if I'm the highest bidder, it's going to look like this. Okay. Why? Because my actual value is going to be above theirs by a certain distance, and that amount of distance I'm going to get instead of with just an extra items. And I can't really fully stop that. The more bidders we have, the better off we are, the stronger capital markets. And there's another cool thing about markets, which is the market itself can anticipate that there'll be future bids. And so the price goes up even before the auction, and you're getting some of your surplus even before the auction. Okay, and that didn't control this to some extent. But we can't guarantee full surplus extraction. But what we can't guarantee, by the way, is the way the mechanism is set up, is they're going to tell you their real value, what they really think they can reach. We can guarantee that part, but we can't guarantee the full surplus extraction. So we get pretty close to the first best here. The project that produces the most social surplus is going to win. And that's great. And we're going to get as much of that surplus as possible delivered to you. Why? Because you represent the original valuation of this DAO. You're really important. Even when you're passive, you're a really important player here. Okay, right, so that's the idea. All right, so let's look at this. So what's the data properties? I'm going to go through this a little quickly because I want to talk about the regulation part. And there's a promise that promise there's going to be a part with, well, we'll come to that. I'm not going to say what it is that. But just what do we have? Well, we've eliminated entrenchment. Okay. The threat of entrenchment, decentralization is over. We defeated empty voting. That voting doesn't matter. Empty voting doesn't matter because it's an auction. We selected the best project. Okay. This is your DAO. This is the thing that you created. Okay. We created. This is your DAO. This is going to select the best projects going forward. Okay. We're going to tend to distribute the surplus to the existing token holders, which maximizes the investment value. It's imperfect. We avoided value destruction. We covered all those things. Okay. Now there's other things we're going to make this possibly ideal is to make this entirely run by code. Okay. It's all code. We can do that. You know, so we made artificial options to do that. The biggest problem is hiding the pre-auction position. We're currently, by the way, in the implementation. We're working with Q protocol, which has a bunch of tools that help us do this. Okay. Now, another thing is, after the auction's over, what are the incentives of the winning bidder to perform? Well, guess what? There's no just and method problem. Why? If we go back to the previous picture, because let's go back to this one. Because they own these tokens. If they fail every month they fail to perform, they're not going to get as much value on these tokens. And not only that, they're on the line because of the deposit. Look, this part, they're on the line at the margin. They're on the line for 100%. They're like a person that owns the whole thing. There's no just a mechanism. We eliminated it. This problem just exists. It's sitting there in corporate areas and stuff like this is better. This is awful. This is better. Run by code. This is exciting. Well, I'm excited.
And that's free.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
And you don't like price.
Yeah. All right. And what else? But you know, one problem with voting, this is a terrible thing, a terrible reality, is we have all these values associated with voting. They're good values, democracy, participation, but voting has a lot of problems. You don't have to look very far. The United States, you're not voting anywhere. Okay. We looked at, you have two presidential candidates running. Nobody likes either. I mean, like, come on. Okay.
People are ready to vote even for a small candy, if I give a candy.
Yeah, okay. Right.
It's enough candy.
All right. But even if people aren't like, here's the terrible killer thing. Even if people aren't like that, we have voting paradoxes, and some of them are really terrible. We have if I had more time, I could go into people are interested. Like, one of the scariest things is, in fact, what I'll do is I'll go into this just briefly. Let's go to slide 56, if possible. I should probably fully dive into the myself, but. All right, so what is this? This is when I first started looking at DAOs. I have a background, like PhD in economics. I did social choice theory a long time ago. So McKelvey and Schofield are my contemporaries. Is McKelvey-Schofield chaos theorem. What does that say? Well, if we have preferences defined in a certain way, which is actually brought over the slide, then the following thing is true. If we have more than two dimensions that people care about, more than one dimension that people care about, like there's two dimensions. So like in the United States, like I care about abortion rules, I care about how much debt there is. Those are two separate things. There's two dimensions. We can't be able to plot it in a two-dimensional graph where people, and they're all over the place. They don't line up in a straight line. If that's true, you're in trouble. First of all, every point you pick, there's going to be another point referred to that by majority voters. Okay, so it's unstable, right? Now, the big surprise, you have presidential candidates that are sliding all the positions around. Why? Because it's not stable. Because it's on final position, there's something that the voters prefer. That's bad, but it gets even worse than that. If we have a sequence of votes under the system, it can go anywhere in the space, anywhere, like in really bad places. Is it a surprise? So, like, as a theoretician, we should not be surprised by the presidential candidates in the United States, at least one. But okay. And so why was this scary? So I first started looking at DAO voting. What is it? Well, we're going to have majority votes on a sequence of propositions. Holy it's like, is this? Okay, well, okay, all right. So but now here's the thing, is we like voting. There's something about it. And, hopefully token holders aren't rivalable like candy, okay? But we like voting. But even with people that are sincere, it doesn't work as a mechanism. It has all these flaws. But here's the thing we can do with the auction mechanism, is if it gets in trouble, what's going to happen? The joker value is going to fall. What it would be great is we traded tokens with the United States, right? Token value falls and get there all. We can somebody can take control temporarily and reset the voting mechanism. I mean, to still vote, have our participation, but we have a guardrail. There's a guardrail that allows Web3 democracy to work, provided by the auction mechanism. And that guardrail is going to be there, especially if people value participation. That person that wins the auction, the way they're going to win is by getting us back to participation. Get us out of the problem that happened, we get us back in participation. Okay, so this is the powerful part of this, is my nightmare. When I first saw this, I thought, coming out of it, well, this is what my brain was hallucinating. Okay, but this is my brain came up. Obviously, it's not a hallucination. Okay, now another thing we can do, all right, so let me go back to the open. So you go back to slide 14. Man. What the? 14 tokens. Yeah. Sorry, I have this big deck. Why do I do this? Because I don't really know what I'm going to talk about exactly. It's interactive. And so people have questions. I like to get stuff through the slide. I didn't think I was doing films. And most that for speech here. No. All right. So then what else can we do? What else do we have? We can do a major overhaul and reworks. Now, this is something that has been troublesome for DAOs. Okay, so if we look at Sky, which used to be Major DAO, what did it do? You read the white paper. The white paper is beautiful, the original one. It's very idealistic. So we're gonna start out with the foundation, we're gonna build this, and then we're gonna let it go, and it's gonna be free and decentralized forever. Yeah. So what actually happened? Well, they did that, and many people, they did that in 1921. They let go of the foundation. Rune Christensen quit. Okay. Now it's free. Now, some people believe they did that because the danger of regulation was coming up. They did it a little early. So we're walking out, it's free. We reached this final point. A year later, Christian comes back, that's 13% on the tokens, retakes control. Why? Because they're unsatisfied with where it was. It was successful, but they felt like they had all those other business things that they just spin off of it. And they didn't want to do those in just one big bunch. They wanted to create sub-DAOs so that you're insulated against risk of any of them failing. And so Rune Christensen takes over again, creates what's called endgame. Why is it called endgame? Because now we're going to fix it, and then we're going to let it go, and it's going to work forever being decentralized.
All
right. So then what's the we can do here? With a mechanism, if things are going wrong, we can have an auction, and guess what? Rune Christensen might not win. And the fact is 13% is not going to make you win, because you have to win the auction. Those are what tokens fail. Now, he might be the best person. He might win the auction, or we can just wait and see what we can see.
How can small token holders in an emergency trigger this auction mechanism to then, do a rebirth? Like, what is the democratic guardrail here I haven't fully grasped?
Okay, so now one thing about this is this depends on capital markets. Okay, so let's say we have somebody who's 20, who's 8, 7, well, Amir is talking about when he was 15 to their 16. They have a really good idea of how to fix this. They don't have any money. So what do? They're going to have to go to the capital market, convince somebody to back them. Okay, so this depends. For this to work, we have to have good capital markets, and arguably, we do. Okay, arguably, we have pretty well-developed capital markets in this. And again, because the mechanism is going to select the best project, the VC or whoever it is, they want the best project. They don't want any bullshit. And the best project is 16-year-old. so be it. Okay. And remember, a lot of these VCs have, they might not be the most popular people in this room, but a lot of VCs are people that were in this room, kind of people that were developers. They're not fools.
Yeah.
And and many of them, and we have a lot of them. We have competition. We have hundreds of them. So all we need is one. We need one, the 16-year-old, we just need one. If people who've done a startup, you know this. You go out there, you have a good idea, you Uber, you go to 70 people, they'll say no. All right, so that's just there.
But there is this group out there that is draining DAOs now for years. They drained also, Aragon and so on. Are they are they that, what you're talking about?
Okay, well, that's part of it. Let's go to slide 35. So this is what I want to organize. It's definitely organized according to the audience. That's how it should be organized. Your life should be organized. I have just slides, you just look down the row.
Best speakers is it?
What's part?
I'm a 62-year-old. I have a great project. I have back capital. But then a friend of some capital owner comes and he says, "This is my project. It's not yours." So what's the, how do you secure, how do you protect the original author?
Okay, so this is like a capital market question, the quality of the capital market.
Again.
All right, well, I have an answer. Okay, go ahead.
Put your trust on me.
So basically, this is the problem of capital markets generally. The founder, 60-year-old founder here, so we're talking about kind of. The question is, will the market give them enough? Okay, and this is a question of how well the markets are working. It seems like maybe it's not perfect, but a lot of founders do very well when their project succeeds, and venture capitalists are competing with each other. Okay. So A16Z is giving you that. I'll give you more. Okay. So that's the thing. One thing is really clear here is this depends on capital markets. So if the capital markets aren't there, this idea is not going to work very well. Okay. So this is just an idea. That's an important assumption. Okay. Now the question about ARCA, for example. So ARCA is a vulture investor.
Listed.
ARCA is the thing that we called with aerodynamic and stuff. So what are they doing? They're looking for things that are dead, but have value. What does it mean? One classic thing is the DAO is worth less than the treasury. Maybe a lot less. So we're going to buy the tokens, liquidate the treasury. There's a vulture. We're telling you this is dead. Here's the problem. When you see that condition, the DAO is worth less than the treasury, there's different cases. One case is where people raised ETH in 2017. Now it's worth like $6 billion, and they really don't have any ideas of okay. Now we want the vulture to come in and clean this up. Okay. But now here's how the auction mechanism works. The vultures have to compete in the auction mechanism. If this is what I just described, what's going to happen? They're going to drive the price up until what? There's going to be a gap between the treasury and value. They're going to get some value, but they're going to compete away most of the value, and you are going to get your treasury back. This is very yes. Just a second, you're going to get your treasury back. And you can then invest it somewhere else. And we cleaned up vultures that are an important part of the ecology. They clean up dead things. The other case, though, is actually the people in this have a very good idea, and the market doesn't see it. So the auction mechanism, they go out, again, they have to go to the VCs or go to the capital market. Say, look, we have a great idea here. You can make some extra money. You can get part of the extra money if you back us here. Okay? So the idea of the auction mechanism is we can decide which things we can make the vulture part of the capital market work really well. We're going to clean up the dead things, or we need to give the money back to people like you so you can invest in new projects. And then, but we're going to also be able to essentially identify projects where the market's making a mistake and somebody, well, these capital market people could compete. So they get part of the surplus from them, from correcting that mistake in the market.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So I could see how this system would work for a for-profit project where you would have the capital markets competing and selecting the best projects. How would this work for a charity DAO? But in terms of attracting, like,
So that was
what would be the motivating factor to have this bidding pool?
yeah. So that goes back to like this where we didn't get in the bar. We need sludge for it. So like this is going to apply whenever the market value of market capacity counts represents the value of the churches. Now, that's obviously that's giving tested features for what check projects like Sky and in the best and in the slides.
Can I ask Michael?
What you know they did? Sorry. So they tried to fix I knew this wouldn't work very well. They tried to cook me up and it didn't work. Okay, so just yell out, use the mic, okay, right away when they're not using it. All right, so right now, if you have a charity DAO, here's how this would, I'm not saying where this borderline is. I don't know, but I'm just specifying theoretically. You can have a charity DAO, and I really love this charity DAO, and there's a limited number of tokens. I don't want to buy it in, and we have competition for the tokens, it drives the value up. And there's a lot of non-commercial DAOs that arguably this is true, okay? And if that's true, this is gonna work. Why? Because if you take over the charity DAO, and you run it better, people are going to want to buy the tokens. A lot of people are going to want to buy tokens, so the value is going to go up. That's the argument. Now, how far is that true? I don't know, but I think I believe it's quite a bit wider than just commercial DAOs. But this is an intellectual project. We're spacing capital markets are important. This borderline is important. You know, it might only work for commercial DAOs, but I don't think so. I think it will work for one. We don't know until we do it.
Yeah, it's very easy to be what DAOs this way. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad thing, but I can see that charity DAO can very easily click to names for profit DAO. People use default DAOs kind of way.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's an really important point. This relates to a lot of the talks in this conference. Unless there are people out there that value cyberpunk, or just think they're good at cyberpunk deals. If we don't have a lot of people like that, you're dead, no matter what. Okay, you create a social media project like Noster, Facebook's going to get it one way or the other. However, if we have an enthusiastic set of people and they value this and they're willing to get up those tokens, it's going to block that from happening. So same with the charity now. You know, I feel there's a lot of questions. I promised on regulation. I started 5 minutes after, but I only have 7 minutes of talks left. Okay, so I want to skip right to regulation. So let's skip to slide 43.
Great.
I think I'll do this really fast. I have a little part that I was going to tap on.
No question.
Well, let you do the regulation and then I will ask the question.
Now I'll do this out on the ad. Okay, so what is the regulation with what you system? You go a little fast. Okay, there's 3 possibilities. Right now we have no idea. If you want to consult. Okay. We have no idea what's going to be true in February 2025 in the United States. There's at least 3 major possibilities. One of them is what was happening up until the Biden administration got into power and what happened then. So the SEC and the CFTC in the United States regulate cryptocurrency, basically the basic things about it. And every time there's a presidential election, the people on those commissions switch. And under the rules of the United States, only 3 can be from one political party. There's 5, so there's 3. But now, during the Trump administration, the Democrats and Republicans on the SEC and the CFTC were all on the same page. What were they doing? They were doing something depending on decentralization. If things were decentralized, there's not going to be a security. They're going to regulate fraud, but they're not going to require a whole bunch of things like quarterly reporting. That would have worked fine. They're going to draw that kind of line. Europe drew that kind of line. Now in the US, that kind of line comes out of case law. It looked like we were going that direction. But then the new commission, Gary Gensler is the chair. This is going to be important if we do the extra part. Okay, we'll talk about the politics a little bit. Yeah, all right, so what happened? Well, the shocking thing that happened, and I talked a little bit about this last night with some people. is the SEC promulgated new regulations for exchanges, including and particularly aimed at decentralized exchanges. And how do they do that? They changed the definition of exchange to include a group of persons. What persons? Anybody involved in the exchange. What does that mean? That means IP providers that are providing access. And not only that, they define the exchange to providing a trading facility or communication protocols. We're not talking about setting up an exchange in a building. You create communication protocols, allow people to trade, maybe you're going to be in an exchange. And what does that mean? You're subject to regulation and to regulatory liability. Okay, now here's the thing that's important about this, and this is coming probably basically directly, this is the existence of smart contracts on a blockchain does not materialize in the absence of human activity or a machine controlled or developed by humans. So what does that mean? We're going after this. And where's this coming from? It's like a fear. It's coming from a fear. What is it a fear of? It's related to AI. I think of it as the fear of Frankenstein, okay? So Frankenstein is out there causing problems. Now, Frankenstein was innocent. It's very sad. But Frankenstein's out there causing problems. Who's going to be responsible? Well, who created Frankenstein? Well, Frankenstein's operating on his own now, okay? So this is kind of the fear that's behind this. Now, where does this fear go? Well, there's a lot of threatening things. Significant holders of governance or other tokens, for example, could be considered a part of the group of persons, okay? That's one part. It's going to get worse and worse here. This group of persons must consider how they're going to apply with the existing rules. The existing rules are developed for like the New York Stock Exchange or we have alternative trading systems. They're complicated. Alternative trading systems rules are easier, but you still have to be a broker dealer. It's heavily regulated. There's all this information you have to report. They have to be responsible people. How are you going to do this with a DAO? Now, who does the group include? Interface providers, core developers, DAOs, validators, miners, issuers, and holders of governance tokens. Then here's the killer thing. Independent software developers, who's that? You go on GitHub and write some code. The code gets used by the DAO. You had nothing to do with the DAO. You never communicated with them. You're never part of it. You have potential regulatory liability, okay? All right, that's what we're talking about. This is the fear. We're going to go after everyone, all right? All right, liability exists for persons or entities that initially created or deployed the system's code, even though the system once deployed typically can't be altered or controlled by any such persons. You let Frankenstein out there, we're going after you, even though you no longer have control of it. Even though you did it, you developed it 10 years ago. Okay, all right. Even more, okay, this goes on and on. Complying could significantly reduce the extent to which the system is decentralized, quote unquote, or otherwise operates in a manner consistent with the principles that the crypto asset industry commonly refer to as DeFi. Too bad you can't operate it as a decentralized thing. Too bad, it's over. So Uniswap, if they do this, Uniswap is in big trouble. A very successful, very powerful project that's run by a DAO. Okay, so all right, so then so now we have another side of this. So now the commissions are very contentious. The Republican members of the commission created strong dissents, especially Hester Pierce. What did she say when they issued this release? She said, her title of her dissent was "Rendering Innovation Kaput." And it's saying this is crazy. It's saying in previous generations, like 1990s, we took electronic exchanges arose. They were new. Instead of slamming them and saying they had to be centralized exchanges, we allowed them to be there for a period of years while we're figuring out what regulations to do. We applied the regulations. It worked well. The regulations work. The electronic exchanges work. Technology advanced. Why don't we do that instead of just slamming this whole industry? Okay. All right. Now, there's an approach that this is called. There's different names for it. Regulatory gradualism. Also, the regulatory sandbox. Those are similar ideas. Okay. So how does this mechanism fix this? Well, one thing is, in this case where you're getting slammed, we have an auction. There's a control party. The control party creates a shield for all the people, including the coders and stuff. Okay. But there's a bigger aspect. Thank you. Yeah. The bigger aspect is what? Is we created, remember all the investor protection we're creating? So there's an argument we don't need regulation, a very powerful argument that we don't need, that maybe the regulatory nightmare can be over. And certainly this is going to fit really well into regulatory gradualism because arguably this is better than what's out there. It's better than in the corporate area, the kind of protections that are built in. Okay, I had another little thing I could have shown, but it's already 52 seconds past time, so I don't think I'll show it. It's really fun, but
yes, I would really like to continue these conversations. I have 2 questions myself. There were many questions in the audience, but the time has run out. Will you be here? Can we talk to you after? Okay, perfect. Okay. So thank you very much. This was very interesting, and thank you for working on this project.